Welcome to the New Zonderlings podcast, where we explore the weird and bizarre. Here are your hosts, Noah and Jeanette.
Hello and welcome to the New Zonderlings podcast. My name is Noah and I'm joined by my co-host Jeanette.
Hi everyone. I'm battling some seasonal allergies, so I'm going to apologize in advance for how I sound. I might be a little nasally. I'm doing my best though. Today's story is a little different from our usual method. Normally I read you the story first and then talk about my research, but I'm going to do it backwards today.
You're going to talk about your research and then read the story?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think it makes more sense.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Shakespeare.
Okay.
We've mentioned him briefly, and you'll see why that's important here in a second. But,
We have? When did we mention him briefly?
We mentioned it during the episode where we talk about the curse of saying Macbeth in a theater. So, I mean, not a whole lot about Shakespeare personally.
Right.
But about, a bad omen surrounding him, I guess.
Right.
There's probably a better way of saying that. I'm going to tell you a little bit of history about Shakespeare first, and then we'll get into today's story. William Shakespeare was born in 1564 in the English town of Stafford-upon-Avon, northwest of London, to a glovemaker father and a farmer mother. He married Anne Hathaway at the age of 18 and had 3 children with her. He moved to London and found success as an actor, playwright, and partner in a theater company. When he was 49, he returned to his hometown where he died 3 years later. Meanwhile, he completely transformed the English language and fully stocked our common pool of metaphors. Besides a handful of biological facts and his life's work of plays and poetry, little is known about Shakespeare. Even the circumstances and cause of his death in 1616 are lost to history, but we do know that his grave is cursed. It says so right there on his stone slab.
What does it say?
This is what our story is about, the curse of Shakespeare's bones.
What?
Yeah. So I think everybody's probably heard that there's a curse around saying the word Macbeth in a theater, which is a Shakespeare play. So it's considered very bad luck to actors if they say the word Macbeth. Except when they're in the play Macbeth, just to clarify. Because reading this, the history of this in this book, Cursed Objects, by J.W. Ocker.
Oh, we know who that is.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned him before.
Or her.
Huh?
Or her.
That's right. We don't know if it's male or female. J.W. can be anybody. It is considered bad luck to say Macbeth. But I think at the time we talked about that previously, we didn't realize that it also pertained, or it didn't pertain to saying it if you're in the play Macbeth. How do you play, do the play Macbeth as an actor and not say the word Macbeth?
Right.
It's somebody's name. So that would be hard. But it doesn't go to that. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. So on the slab of his grave, it is engraved, "Good friend, for Jesus' sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be the man that moves my bones."
Awfully Shakespearean.
Well, the story goes that Shakespeare himself composed this funerary verse, and for reasons that aren't poetic but practical. At the time of his death, bodies were often exhumed for medical research to make room for newly dead bodies, or even so their treasures could be grave robbed. In Shakespeare's case, there was also the risk of fans wanting to take souvenirs. Sick but true. People do that.
Imagine being that popular.
They've had to hide many people's graves because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Surprisingly, not even really famous for the right reasons, people, but more infamous.
Right.
I think they've had to hide people like Jeffrey Dahmer's graves, and I don't know for sure if it's him particularly, but people like that are really infamous.
Well, when there's a kind of prison fever, like Ted Bundy, all these girls throwing themselves at him.
That's gross.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't tell you what mental disorder those people have, but I'm sure it is one.
Yeah, no, I don't get that either. But
oh, this guy likes to strangle ladies to death. I love him.
cut their heads off. Yeah. That's a story for a different day. That's a different episode.
I don't understand the psychology of that.
I don't really either.
I would prefer a man who doesn't
Murder.
hurt and murder. Yeah, that would be the ideal man for me.
That's fair.
So, what do you think about graveside curses to begin with?
Well, as a 13 Club member, I don't believe in curses.
Do you think this worked for him? I mean, obviously the reason was he didn't want people to rob his grave. Right? So,
has it worked for him? Probably. It worked for Macbeth, didn't it?
oh yeah, people still are.
People are still suspicious of it.
So anything Shakespeare writes down is canon for everyone for all time.
It becomes truth.
We should write a couple of plays just so that we could do stuff like that.
Right.
I like this tree. I'm going to write in a stone slab that no one can ever cut down this tree or they're going to be cursed. So I could take it that you don't really believe in curses.
I do not.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Okay, good.
You don't have to believe in it.
I don't.
All right, then.
Good.
All right. Fine.
Fine.
Okay. So in Shakespeare's case, there was also a risk of fans wanting to take souvenirs. Writing the verse was Shakespeare's way of guaranteeing he could spend eternity with a do not disturb sign dangling from his door handle. I love J.W. Ocker. And the people of England take the curse seriously. In 2008, the burial site and other stone surfaces in the church needed to be restored, having begun to crumble with age and use. The team overseeing the project had to assure that the people of England that they wouldn't disturb the bones of Shakespeare and that they were taking all precautions to minimize disruption to the grave. But the thing is, Shakespeare's bones might have already been disturbed centuries ago. Another weird thing I want to bring it up because it doesn't really say this in any of the research I did, but I have a picture of them. Okay, and they're scanning over top the bones.
Mm-hmm.
They buried him in the floor of this church, so people walk over it all the time, which I guess is kind of strange to me because if you go to a graveyard, you were taught as a child never to walk on the graves,
right?
Because it's disrespectful.
At least I was told not to.
I was too. So it's looked at as disrespectful in a way to do that.
Which is, some way, I understand that.
But from this picture, it definitely looks like he is in a position where people would have to walk over him frequently. So I don't know if that's a normal thing. If anybody does know, let me know that, churches back then buried people of high standing or popularity in the floor. I'm not sure. But anyway, Shakespeare's bones might have already been disturbed centuries ago. It was long been rumored that his skull is no longer rotting with the rest of him. That was at some point went missing from the grave. Of course, this seems like an obvious rumor to spread about the author that indelibly seen in Hamlet, in which the Danish prince talks to the skull of his friend, or York. I think everybody has that. It's been used so many times in movies and stuff where, the guy holding the skull up and talking to him.
Oh, yes. You've seen 30 Rock.
Yeah.
When they have Kelsey Grammer. So in 30 Rock, which if you don't know what that is, it's a show about a TV show that Tina Fey is producing and Alec Baldwin oversees. It's a funny show. It's comedy. I like it. Jeanette really likes it. She's seen it like 1,000 times.
I don't know about 1,000. I've seen it all the way through at least once.
Sorry, 999. Anyways, there's a skit where Kelsey Grammer is on the show dressed as Mayor McCheese, and he's quoting Macbeth. And
that's during their grifter.
Yes.
They're stealing money from a Baskin Robbins.
Right. But it's, every time I hear Macbeth, that's all I think about is Kelsey Grammer as Mayor McCheese quoting Macbeth. And of course, he does an excellent job because Kelsey Grammer is amazing.
He is excellent. Yes. We like him.
But anyways, back to the story.
In 2016, a team of researchers used ground-penetrating radar, the type that wouldn't disturb Shakespeare's bones or activate the curse, to see if they could find either evidence of a skull or lack thereof. What they found were possibly signs of a past disturbance of the area of the grave where the skull would be. Interesting, but not conclusive. So, until somebody ignores the curse completely and roots around Shakespeare's remains for definitive answers, the question of his skull will remain a mystery, unless that is, there's another option. A professor named Francis Thackeray from University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg has an idea. In 2015 interview with the Telegraph, he posited a way to reach Shakespeare's skull while avoiding the curse. He said we could possibly get around that by at least exposing the bones and doing the high-resolution, non-destructive laser surface scanning for forensic analysis without moving a single bone. I don't know that they have done that, but that's what J.W. Ocker has to say on that curse. But I did find some more recent news stories about just this thing. So the headline of this, and I believe I got this from the BBC, was Shakespeare's skull probably stolen from Stafford grave?
Probably air quotations.
So they don't know for sure.
It's very weird.
That it has been stolen, but for the reasons I just read, they think possibly. I don't know why anybody would want somebody's head. I mean, we could probably make a whole episode about the psychology of wanting to possess someone's dead head.
I certainly would like to possess a skull.
A real one?
A human skull, yeah.
Why?
I don't know. There's just some fascination with, you see my desk here. We're set up on my desk. I have like several skulls sitting in the corner.
Yeah, but they're glass.
Well, there's a couple glass. There's a dice tower. You throw a dice in the eyeball and it spits out the mouth.
We are D&D people also. Just in case
we are Dungeons and Dragons.
They're like, what? What's a dice tower?
I have other skulls, but I don't know.
I have a crystal skull at home, but just because I just got wrapped up at one point, that whole crystal skull mystery thing.
Oh, yeah.
We'll probably do an episode about that.
But I don't know. There's a fascination with possessing a human skull. It is
but a real one. So
yes.
You can just get a fake one.
I have a fake one. I named it Dave.
It's weird.
It is weird, isn't it?
You're a weird guy.
I know I am. That's why we started a show about weird things.
I guess I'm the one that points it out.
That's why you're the co-host.
But yeah, I don't know that I want to own somebody's head. I
would love to own somebody's head. If you out there are a listener and want to give up your head to me.
It's illegal to own somebody's body parts. You know this. We've covered this.
I know.
In our medical cannibalism.
I'm being funny.
Just for clarity, though. I feel the need to tell everybody you cannot legally own.
Yeah. Please do not send me your skull.
Yeah, don't actually do that. It's illegal. You can get in big trouble for that. I think it's a felony. I'd have to look that up. But I read somewhere about that very thing not too long ago. There was a story about some guy that was kind of black market dealing with, body parts. And mainly skulls. Because you're not the only one who has a fascination with that. My sister-in-law, love you. She likes animal skulls.
Yes, I know that.
So
I've met her.
She collects those. Very artistic, but they are still animal skulls.
There's a fascination with the...
People do love that kind of macabre.
Yes, the...
decor, I guess.
Casing of the brain.
I don't personally get it. But, teach their own.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm like this.
So this story... archaeologists use a high-tech scanning machine to investigate the kind of thing that people do when they're looking for graves in the earth. They just did it over the stone. And it says the discovery of the investigation was that the skull was probably stolen. I can't say that absolutely to a fact.
Right.
Same thing the book said.
But they couldn't find it in their scans.
Discovery gives credence to a news report in 1879, later dismissed as fiction, that trophy hunters took the skull from the grave in 1794.
I see.
Archaeologist Kevin Coles of Staffordshire University, who carried out the project with leading geophysicist Erica Utsi, concluded we have Shakespeare's burial with an odd disturbance at the head end, and we have a story that suggests that at some point in history, someone came in and has taken the skull of Shakespeare. So,
very, very eloquently worded.
so I have a picture of him for you. Of course, the listeners can Google Shakespeare.
Well, I know what Shakespeare looks like.
He's got kind of a big forehead.
Yeah, he does. It's a lot of real estate up there.
There's a lot of real estate, but he looks kind of bald on top too. So that could be, they didn't have pictures back then. So this is obviously a painting of him. And then that's his, the stone where he was buried.
Oh, okay.
So he's got people on either side of him.
Right. But.
And that's where that curse is engraved, is right at the base of his grave.
Yes.
So there is a documentary about this. Shakespeare's Tomb it's called Shakespeare's Tomb, broadcast over the BBC in 2016. I don't know if we can still get a hold of that or not. You might be able to find it on YouTube or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. So my question is, has anyone been affected by this quote unquote curse?
Well, I mean, obviously, if someone did take it, the big question was,
what happened?
Were they cursed?
Were they cursed? Are they still alive? Do they still have the skull? Did they pass it down from generation to generation?
They do have, investigators did go to another church, St. Leonard's in Worcestershire, where there was a legend of a mysterious skull that was sealed in a crypt, that it could have been Shakespeare.
Curious. Okay.
So a forensic anthropologist.
Of course. They're really getting into this story.
Yeah. Forensic anthropology, fun fact, was something I really wanted to do.
Why didn't you?
I quit. We talked about this also. I went 3 years for a history degree and quit.
That's right.
And became an accountant.
Because you're a quitter.
So, yeah. Yeah. Well, life happens, and things happen. And you were like, history degrees don't make much money. So I'm going to go this way instead. So.
You could have been on television. You could have had a history podcast.
I do not think that anybody gives a flying leap about an occasional forensic anthropologist that might show up. Oh, I remember her. Did you see that one when we were watching that documentary about? No. I do not believe people become famous being forensic anthropologists.
Well, I didn't say you'd be famous. I'd say you'd be on TV.
But I like history, and I like the history of people.
Yeah.
And
which is fair.
Figuring out how someone died is interesting to me. It's fascinating. I've been instructed to use fascinating instead of interesting.
Who told you that?
You did last one.
Oh, did I?
Last episode.
I don't know. Listen, I've slept since then.
So, okay, this forensic anthropologist did do an analysis on the skull, and it is an unknown woman to be in her 70s. So,
Shakespeare was a woman?
Not Shakespeare, no. You're drawing the wrong conclusion, sir. It was a great honor to be the first researcher to be given permission to undertake the non-invasive archaeological investigations of William Shakespeare, said this anthropologist, Mr. Coles. With projects such as this, you never really know why or what you might find. And of course, there are so many contradictory myths and legends about the tomb of the bard. He used the word bard. I thought you'd appreciate that.
This is the first time we've heard that word on this podcast.
Bard.
The bard.
The bard.
The bard.
Before we started recording this episode, we were talking about The Witcher, and the bard is one of my favorite characters.
I haven't seen it.
In The Witcher. Oh my God, you need to watch that.
I'm busy doing other things.
You would really like it. If you're everybody that's into D&D out there, if you like D&D, you will like The Witcher. It was a video game first. I'd never watched the video, or I never played it, never watched it, whatever.
Actually, it was a book first.
No, I think the book spawned from the game. I mean, we can look that up. Fact check.
Fact check.
I'm pretty sure it was the video game first, and then a book, and then the series, the TV series.
Nope, it started as books first.
It is books first. Well, I did not know that. Learn something every day.
How dare you? How dare you not be so educated?
So, in going back to the investigation, they have another place that they can try. Another church has a mysterious skull. No word on whether or not that was Shakespeare yet.
What's up with all these just random skulls appearing?
Surprisingly, I think it's strange for us to wrap our minds around in America because our history just doesn't go back that far.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was probably pretty common 300 or 400 or 500, 600 years ago.
I see.
That kind of thing to show up and body parts to be encased in churches as shrines to saints or whatever you want to talk about. I know that in Buddhism, there are many different places of worship for Buddhists that have hands or parts of the body of supposedly the Buddha.
Oh.
I doubt it.
Interesting, yeah.
But, it's really seen as a holy relic, and there's no way they're going to let people test it.
Right,
But,
of course.
It is definitely old.
Yeah.
It could be an old holy monk from some point in history. I mean, that could very well be, but I don't know. So there are other possibilities. This possibility from Chris Lautaris of University of Birmingham. So, it could have been reburied. This pretty much is what he's got to say about it. And wonders whether a loved one is responsible for the disappearance of the playwright's skull, which he thinks could lie in a relative's tomb. Now, we talked about Shakespeare was married to Anne Hathaway. They had 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know. I personally could not stomach the thought of digging up my husband's dead head just to have it buried with me, but
maybe that was one of his secret wishes.
Death throughout history has been weird from our viewpoint.
Right.
Through our lens of modern times, knowing what we know. But I mean, someone could be so distraught that they,
I suppose.
want to dig up pieces of their relatives.
Out of the realm of possibility, but it just seems like a weird thing to do.
I also want to bring up something else because this got me totally off in a different direction. And I know this episode has not been very funny, but maybe this will bring in some more lightheartedness. When I was doing this research, I got like a pop-up ad, as you do when you're surfing for anything.
Anymore, yes.
Because they are always analyzing you in your search histories.
Careful, they're listening.
They're listening. I got it was, what did I say his town where he was born? It's kind of a weird Westfield or upon Avon, something like that in England. Staffordshire upon Avon, I think is what it was. They have an edition of Monopoly of that. And that just got me just on this whole, I know that's completely in left field from what we're talking about, but it got me going down this whole, so weird that they have that edition of Monopoly.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Based on the birthplace of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And I have seen just really strange Monopolies. So I decided to look up how many different Monopoly editions or versions there have been. And it was 49 pages on a Word document.
Oh my gosh.
There have been so many editions of Monopoly. Why, I don't know.
Yeah, that's just...
And I'm guilty of it. I have a couple of different ones. We, when my kids were little, we had SpongeBob Monopoly.
Yeah.
And, I have bought my older children Rick and Morty Monopoly. So I know there have been a lot of, sometimes I see them in the store and it'll just be really, every state Monopoly you can think of, city Monopolies are out there. All the different sports teams you can think of have their own Monopoly. Like, it was an amazing list of Monopolies.
It's like playing cards.
I hope nobody out there collects Monopoly editions because you could never get them all.
Scary.
There's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And of course, I had to print out a list of the weirdest ones that I thought. Oh, did you? Alpaca Monopoly. I'm sorry, I'm not saying them right. Alpacaopoly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. Okay.
Baconopoly.
Baconopoly.
There are people that really like bacon.
Yes.
Businesses even have their own Monopoly, believe it or not.
Like who?
Best Buy Corporation Edition Monopoly.
Wow.
You want Best Buy Edition?
No, I'm good. It's like, because it's Hasbro, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Hasbro's just losing their minds.
They just want all the money.
They're monopolizing on the game Monopoly.
The Monopoly. But there are just so many. There was actually a Dungeons and Dragons one I wanted to get for you, but unfortunately, the classic one of what I think of as Dungeons and Dragons is a collector's edition now. And if you want it, you guys pay $300 or $400 for it on eBay.
I see.
I think now they do have the movie edition.
Right.
From the movie that came out not too long ago. So,
which was very good, by the way.
It was good, but I wouldn't be interested in that Monopoly, and I didn't think you would be either.
I only have one version of Monopoly, and it is Pokemon.
Pokemon Monopoly.
Of course. I'm a huge Pokemon fan.
I used to have Star Wars Monopoly.
Yeah.
Like, I had so many different games.
It's like Trivial Pursuit, too.
They also had another one that I really want to get you, but again, hundreds of dollars on eBay. Cthulhu edition.
Oh, man.
Monopoly. Cthulhu edition of Monopoly. I can't even think in my mind of what you would name all the squares of the Cthulhu Monopoly.
Well, it'd be mostly like different, what's his name?
Shipwrecks?
No, what's his name? I can't think of the author's name now.
Oh, Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft. It'd be different H.P. Lovecraft stories, I'm sure.
Think so?
Or places in those stories.
I've never actually read any of the Cthulhu stories, so I don't know anything about them.
Book around here somewhere.
Actually, I think it's at my house because you brought it as a D&D prop and never took it home.
I did, didn't I? Along with my skull.
Okay. Cheerleading edition Monopoly.
Yeah, that's
I thought that was kind of obscure.
What, like Bring It On?
No, just cheerleading.
Okay, that's weird.
I don't know what those squares would be named either.
I don't know about that one.
Geekopoly.
Okay.
You can go in a lot of different ways with that one. Juicy Couture Monopoly.
All right. You're starting to lose me.
Longest game ever edition of Monopoly.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but Monopoly is already a ridiculously long game. That's why most people don't want to. You're like, hey, you want to play Monopoly? And they're like, no, I don't have 6 hours.
No, I don't want to be here the rest of the weekend.
Retro game edition from Walmart. Sun-made collector's edition.
Sun-made. Like raisins.
Like raisins.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay.
Van Gogh edition.
Van Gogh edition. Is there a Shakespeare edition?
Huh?
Is there a Shakespeare edition?
Well, the one I told you about. Stafford upon Avon.
You did tell me about that.
Which you can still get that in the UK for all our UK listeners. It is for sale on Amazon over there. Like in the UK Amazon. For, like 27 pounds or something. So not a lot. I guess we could order from UK Amazon if we wanted to.
I do not know.
It's hard to get access to it because of course you would have to get like a VPN.
Right. I would, yeah.
Somehow I found it. So I was able to get on it from my American browser.
Well, I don't think it'd be a problem then.
But you'd really have to try hard to get to it, I think.
Right.
And then, to have it shipped to the US from an Amazon in the UK, I don't know what kind of problematic thing that would cause. Since you're a member here, would you get free shipping?
You're asking a lot of questions.
If anybody knows the answers to this, please let me know in the comment. But I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a good place to end it.
I was going to say, that's all the time we have for today. Like what you heard? Leave a suggestion for future episodes on our website. Feel free to follow us on Instagram, Reddit, TikTok, Facebook, and X. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the New Zonderlings podcast. Be sure to check out other episodes of this podcast when Noah and Jeanette will once again explore the weird and bizarre right here on the New Zonderlings podcast.